So, I've spoken to Jerry about this before. The change and evolution in the game, the overabundance of threes. I know he's not a fan. The question is, how do I get him to say he's not a fan? I thought I would ask him about it for this podcast. His answer did not disappoint. But as an added bonus to me asking, like, hey, me and you have joked about this before. What do you think about, the overemphasis? It leads into this fascinating discussion about who he believes is the most dominant team in NBA history.
We talk jokingly, and I agree wholeheartedly, that it's not that fun watching someone bring the ball up and just shoot from the logo. Like, the three-point is getting a little out of hand. Do you think that the three-point line is becoming too overemphasized?
Well, it's an interesting thought. Obviously I like ball movement and player movement and teamwork. I think in 1988, the Lakers were in the World Championship. I think they shot 220 three-point shots.
The entire season.
I think that's it. And they win the championship. But my God, that team was people talk about super team. That was more than a super team. It might have been the greatest team I've ever seen. A lot of people talk about the Bulls. The Bulls couldn't have beaten that team, in my opinion. And I have great respect for them. I feel great respect for Michael. I don't think they can beat that team.
Let's stop right here. Let's just break this down. I've never heard anyone, when discussing the all-time greatest teams, mention the 87-88 Lakers. This just never happened. This just doesn't. Look at every list. It just doesn't happen. Almost everyone else mentions the 86-87 Lakers as a top 5 team in NBA history. But Jerry West prefers the 87-88 team, which is the team that repeated, which is the team who traded for former number 1 overall pick Michael Thompson. That is the difference in the roster. Michael Thompson. In order to get Michael Thompson, they gave up 2 first-round picks and 2 players for him. Pat Riley, as soon as the trade got announced, he came in and said all kinds of amazing things about what he thought Michael Thompson was going to do for this team. He came in to back up Kareem. This is what Pat Riley said about Thompson. Michael Thompson's more than a role player. He's a frontline player. He's a shooter who can fit right into the low post offense that we run for Kareem. He's also an excellent defensive player, very strong, very smart, and a good passer. He's not a one-dimensional player. An absolute beast, Michael Thompson. How excited were the Lakers when they acquired him? Well, when they requested Thompson's stats from the Spurs, they also asked for Thompson's ring size. Also, they picked up Tony Campbell, who, if you're a Timberwolves fan, you probably know him. He's the second leading scorer in Timberwolves history. He averaged 12 points per game for the Lakers in right around 18 minutes per game. By the way, this 87-88 Lakers team was the only team in NBA history with 4 number 1 overall picks on the team. This is the pinnacle of Showtime, with Magic at the height of his powers. Kareem is still a force in his second to last year, and it is a roster full of stars. So if you're not on Google looking it up, because I had to do the same, James Worthy's on this team, Hall of Famer, averaged 20 points per game on 53% shooting. Byron Scott is on this team, averaged 22 points per game that year. Michael Cooper, coming off the bench, Defensive Player of the Year before. Michael Thompson, we already talked about him. Kurt Rambis, we know Kurt Rambis, friend of the show. Kurt and Linda, hard-nosed player who ended up winning 4 titles with the Lakers. And A.C. Green from Portland, Oregon, confirmed player, all-star who won titles with Magic and Kareem and Kobe and Shaq. The team ran the fast break better than anyone in history. Still, though, could also run the half-court offense better than almost anyone else as well through Kareem and Thompson. Team might look not on paper as fast as other teams in history. But listen, when they got out into transition and they wanted to run, it looked like they were all looking to PR for their 40-meter dash. They were sprinting. They were impossible to keep up with. Getting the ball in the block to Kareem, of course, allowed them to slow things down, which changes the average of their pace of play. Here's what Jerry said about this team, but also, in the meantime, explained why the three-point has become a solve for less talented teams than teams like this. Fascinating stuff.
Just because of their height and speed?
They just so smart, dominant players at every position, and 3 stars. Most teams don't have 3 stars that can play together. And they can win any kind of game, a slow game, a physical game. If it was a fast game, you had no chance to beat them. And so, having said that, what has happened is the teams with less talent and coaches that are probably statistical driven, analytically driven, give some of these teams a chance if they're shooting a lot of three-point shots. If you watch it, the game is very open. It looks like a frantic kind of play. And now teams some nights shoot 50 shots a night. 50 shots a night from the three-point line. I don't like to watch it personally. I don't. I'd rather see that mixed into, more conventional kind of things. But the game becomes very fast when you miss a lot of three-point shots. It's also really impacting defensive play. And so that's why teams need athletic players that can play multiple positions defensively. And look in the playoffs, look the size of some of these teams that are in the playoffs. All these big guys that are so effective in the regular season, it's hard for them to play because they target those people. And there's a new buzzword, they get played off the court. Well, if you're good enough, you're not going to get played off the court, okay? You're not. But they do, and you give coaches credit, you give scouting departments credit, they do take advantage of those situations. Watching the Warriors play, when you're playing against these tall teams like us, you don't want to switch against those guys. Because they're so active and they pass the ball, you just can't stand there behind the basket and down by the basket. They hope that, we're going to do something really good here. But again, give credit to the coach.
Ty Lue, for those who don't know, came back and beat the Mavericks after they looked cooked, and then beat the Jazz after being down 25 points in the third quarter of Game 6. Many people know Ty Lue for being LeBron James's coach coming back from 3-1 with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Other historians know Ty Lue for being on the floor when AI stepped over him. Jerry West, the Laker executive, drafted Ty Lue, so there's a long-standing relationship here. The thing that strikes me about this is this piece, is that there's an admission that the Clippers should have been dog shit last year. He is shocked that they won as many games as they did. He is shocked that they even sniffed the playoffs, considering how many injuries this team had. Let's talk about it. Kawhi was gone for the year. And Paul George. If you had to ask yourself, how many games do I think Paul George played last year? How many was it? 31 games out of 82. He is legit shocked that the Clippers scrapped and scraped to get 42 wins. Just 5 games less than they had last year with both superstar players. So listen to where Jerry ranks Ty Lue in the coaching hierarchy of today's NBA and why.
Ty Lue is one of the ones who ran a player off the floor. We saw it in the Utah series, but they were down, I want to say 3-1. That series against the Mavs and that series against Utah was the series where I really said to myself, okay, I was incredibly wrong about Ty Lue because the brand or the reputation was, okay, he had LeBron and Kyrie, but his coaching against the Mavs and his coaching against the Jazz was really impressive.
Well, he's simply one of the best coaches in the world. People don't know that. And playing for him is delightful, okay? He's not afraid. He believes in what he believes in. And as I say, when people talk about coaches, he would be up there with the top 3 in the league as coaches. And more importantly, he's a fantastic guy who It's just so easy to be around. And more importantly, he's so smart. And he has a great, great way about him to players. He's not that old. And I drafted him when I was in Los Angeles. And he's a bulldog. But he's fun. And I feel fortunate he's our coach. With all the turmoil we have with injuries, and particularly two of the best players in the world. It's amazing that we won so many games.
Here in the middle of describing what makes Ty Lue so special, he also takes time to fire shots at the play-in tournament. Legit hilarious.
The play-in, which I don't like at all. I think it's a horrible mistake because you can take one game and decide a season's worth of work. I just don't like it, and I'm sure the commissioner probably doesn't want to hear me say that, but I don't like it. I just think it's worthless to me. And the danger is that these teams that played all year, late in the year, if you get a couple of injuries where they can't play for a couple of the games, one game to decide your season, that's no good. And I don't like it. I just think I don't know what the concept is.
The funniest thing about this clip is how Jerry answers the question about how far the Clippers could have gone last year in the playoffs, considering I think it's pretty wide open. The fact that the Mavs got through, the fact that the Suns were exposed, the fact that the Warriors broke through, the Bucks got injured. Seemed like the Clippers had a real shot if they were healthy, right? He humbly talks about really how it doesn't matter because we can never go backwards. But then he also says something fascinating. He says, defenses are gonna wait on you. But when you have really elite players, it doesn't matter whether they wait on you or not. Nothing you can do to stop them. I.e. Kawhi, i.e. Paul George. Kind of a subtle, I think we could have gone deep. He also addresses whether Kawhi could have come back in the playoffs if they would have made the playoffs and Paul George didn't get COVID and they didn't lose to the Pelicans. And finally, whether Kawhi is any different than the outside world views him, considering that they have a very good relationship. Really insightful, really interesting stuff.
If Paul George doesn't get COVID or go into health and safety protocols against the Pelicans, how far do the Clippers go, do you think, last year, given how wide open it was?
Well, I'm not sure if it's wide open because it's a really good team, but I will say this. Through thick and thin last year, they found a way. But it's just hard in the playoffs when there's more focus from the coaches. You have a chance to see them play every night. And half the time, if you're just defenses are waiting on you, and if you have those truly great players, it doesn't make any difference. They still be waiting on you, and they'll be players themselves. And that's why it hurts not to have these best players playing in the playoffs. Who knows? I mean, it's only a guess. I try not to look at that. To me, it's a hand you dealt with, and you play it. And unfortunately, it didn't work out.
Was there a scenario if there was a long playoff run that Kawhi could have come back in the playoffs?
I'm pretty sure he could. I'm pretty sure he could. And to get him, obviously get him back is like a godsend. And he wasn't, and we didn't get there, so we'll never know.
You mentioned that people misunderstand you. Do you think that people misunderstand Kawhi as well? Do you think he's different than the outside world sees him? No, he's the same?
I love Kawhi. He's a basketball player, okay? And just watching him work out, you can see how serious he is.
So he's not as playful as you?
Oh, I'm much more playful.
Yeah.
But I'm much crazier than him. He has a much greater focus working out on his own. But, if you're around him, when he first came there with the Clippers, and obviously, I wasn't running the team, but I go to practice and I'm around all the time. You're just trying to, you watch, and you obviously can improve. You watch the greatness that he has as a player, but you wonder sometimes, why doesn't he talk to him? Well, since he's been there, I have had the pleasure of getting to know him a little bit better, and it's impossible not to be infatuated. He's got a wide sense of humor. He's a pro.
The thing about this clip that was so interesting, not only in the fact that the Clippers' weakness was passing last year, and that was the admission, is that when describing John Wall, Jerry says that John Wall is a great guy. But his reputation around those who cover the league is not that. He has been known to be someone that pundits take shots at for being too self-focused, or who knows. So I wanted to get at why John Wall was such a polarizing figure. And another thing that came out of this process, though, was a little nugget and what the Clippers vetting process was like in acquiring a player like John, and how he also thinks the Clippers are the deepest team in the league and he wouldn't trade it for anybody else.
John Wall, one of the biggest, I would say, pickups, one of the most interesting pickups that took forever and a day to actually come to fruition. A lot of people, I think, thought that deal would get done or that move would get made last year. What does he bring to the team?
Well, he brings another guy that really likes to play basketball. He can get in the lane. He will find our three-point shooters. It's probably a weakness in our team last year, passing. He will give us an upgrade in being able to attack the basket. And he's a good guy. Okay, he loves to play. And we're just hopeful that he can stay healthy. Watching him work out, he looked fantastic. Great shape. He's been working out all year. That would be a pretty good vacation to make that kind of money and not get a chance to play. I would have liked it. It would have been probably 4,000.
You mentioned great guy, and he's a polarizing figure too. There's been people who have said things about him, and I don't know that they necessarily know him. But why do you think there's this, disparity in terms of the opinion on him as a guy?
You know what? I don't see it. People can say anything they want to about it. It may not be true. There's rumors from an unknown source, which we see all the time. I wish they would identify those sources sometime. It just does not, it's not who he is that we've seen. Players really like him. A lot of our players know him. And so before a player comes somewhere, you check with the players, particularly ones that know him. And all we heard were good things. And all I can go and say, just what your eyes see at that moment is how you know about him. And he's just been really good for us right now. So it's not the start of the season. We will see when training camp starts. But this is a powerful team. The Clippers are a powerful team. From 1 to 13, I would not trade this team for any team in the league. That doesn't mean we're the best team. But I would not trade it for any team in the league.
You think they're the deepest team in the league?
That's why I say 1 through 13.
Yeah.
Yes, that's it.
So this question was out of left field. No segue. There was no connection to him or the Clippers or anything. I just wanted to know, how do you build a roster around LeBron James? If it's you, Jerry West, and all you have is LeBron, what do you do? How do you best set him up for success? How do you build around him in a way that makes your team more likely to win a championship, but also accentuates what makes LeBron so great? Pretty simple. Awesome stuff from Jerry.
I'm curious about LeBron and him as a style of player. Obviously dominant, that's been said. But if you have LeBron on your team and no one else, what do you think is the best way to build a roster around someone like him or him specifically?
Well, again, if you look at him, the thing that makes him truly, he hardly misses games because of him. He's one of the smartest players that ever played the game. I think he's better with an open court. I would try to have a team that's shooting, that can run, people can run, and that's when he's really greatest. He can attack the rim, he can pick out people on the run. That's when he's really dominant. And sometimes when you get the ball down in a half court, if you have another player playing with him, and let's say he's so virtually moving all over the place, you're playing up front on the wing. I think that's hurts him a little bit.
You think he would be better in the block?
Oh, no, not at all. He needs space. And as I say, because of his size and his passing ability, he's one of the true greatest players that ever played. He's an iconic figure. He's going to break every record in this league. And he's someone that I greatly admire personally. I do. It's hard to do what he's done. But he cares about the game, cares about winning. He's driven. He takes care of himself. You never hear anything bad about him.
Yeah.
because he is a consummate professional.
But it's guys, not necessarily point guards because he plays that, but combo guards that can shoot the three and also handle and pass, and kind of that long, versatile defender that you guys like, that Toronto likes.
Well,
Somebody,
that's a challenge.
Yeah.
That's a challenge because the problem is with a team with him, they're usually drafting very low.
Yes.
Okay? They don't get in that area where they can find one of those players. It doesn't have to be in the top 10. It could be a little bit later in the draft, early second round. They might find a player like that. And hopefully that will help. It's just a different way of playing.
Yeah, it's interesting. Rosters with him on it look different than other rosters that people construct just because of all the unique things that he can do.
Well, you put him with players that are where he doesn't every night doesn't have a scoring load. He's a lot better that way. And people don't realize how rare and how dependent that people become on players. They just take him for granted. And because he does it every night, and he's unique. But some nights, regardless of how hard you try to score, some nights you just can't. You can't make shots that you normally make. But he's always going to score because he's going to draw fouls and get to the free throw line. But he's a player that I really greatly admire. He's been doing it for so long, and the success he's had. As I say, he's going to break all the records. He's been there for a number of years, and that's an amazing tribute not only to his play but his durability.
So a little behind the scenes here. So before I ask this question, and I'm a little hesitant in asking it, so I'm a little long-winded in getting there. So I'm trying to get him to address winning time. I'm trying to figure out a way to do that. And I've had lunch with Jerry a few times, and I've been out with him socially as well, and I've never seen him drink. Not one time. Not once. So to me, it was really fascinating that winning time made him look like an alcoholic. Just made him look like a guy who throws his trophy through his office window, and that he's at the bar getting fucked up, meeting his future wife. Crazy shit. Because I saw winning time after we met, extremely sus at this depiction. So I asked him about alcohol use, thinking that might lead us into the winning time discussion. But we actually ended up on this really interesting side road, somehow, about the blueprint on giving constructive criticism, how you balance being brutally honest and being a relationship guy, because I think that's insanely hard to balance. And then somehow we got on the role of social media and debate show talking heads in today's NBA. Then he throws subtle shade at the Lakers, at Stephen A., at JJ Redick. What a turn. Did not expect this. By the way, got to remember, we're about an hour and a half into this interview, and he is cooking.
One of the craziest things that I saw, and that I've known about you for a long time, is that you don't drink. And I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, that you've never had.
Well, as I say, I don't say I don't drink, okay? But there's never any alcohol in my family when I was a kid. If I drink, it would be after a game. I might have a vodka and tonic, but I'm not a drinker at all.
Right.
I don't like what it does to me. I'm not. I just don't like to drink.
Yeah.
I've grown a family, and my father smoked heavily. There's no way that I can ever smoke anything. And listen, I'm not a perfect person. I'm not even professional. But there's things that I just won't do.
Yeah.
I'm also not going to. Look, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Some people don't. I'm brutally honest. Some people don't want you to be that way.
That's an interesting question. So how do you balance that, being brutally honest in the talent evaluation role, when people are kind of like, there's another industry out there to try to make things out to be bigger than they are? What do? You just don't care?
Social media, and particularly these people who get on the air and criticize players, and the next day they'll come back and kiss and make up. I don't like that. But they do it so people will create controversy. Some of these players are not controversial. They're all who they are. And I watched this year some of the things written about a few of our players, and they are who they are. Why? You're not going to change them.
Right.
This is who they are, and I think it's grossly embarrassing on the way.
But is it hard for you knowing that you're brutally honest? Does that impact? And you're also a relationship-oriented person. How do you balance those two things?
Well, somebody will come up and say to you, I want to know this, okay? And I said, look, this is only my opinion. Do you want me to tell you what you want to hear, or do you want me to tell you what I think? And sometimes I'm going to tell you what I think, and I'll tell you. I said, it's not a reflection of you. It's a reflection of how you can get better, not only as a player, but as a person. How you can interact with people better, how people will be more accepting of you. I said, the most disarming thing in the world, I think, is a smile. And I'm pretty simple. I'm really pretty simple. And I don't think life in this league today, it's almost gotten to the point. It's the excessive amount of publicity, the excessive amount of content about the players that are in our league, and not always looking something derogatory like I just think it's ridiculous. And some of the people on the air who I watch, ex-players, players who've accomplished basically nothing, talking about the game, their opinion. When I played, I don't talk about when I played. It was completely different era. The game had changed. And I thought to be modern. And even though I'm older, reading things that are meaningful, reading about history, reading about people who have inspired. I say, even though I battle depression terribly, I do care about people a lot. And some people, and NBA players, and players in other sports, I want to feel like if everyone praises them when they're with their franchise, and the next second they trade him, and
then he's not anything.
Well, you're just a number. Regardless who you are. As I mentioned, players have places where they want to go today, and everyone seemingly wants to go to a big market city. I'm going to go to the place where I can win. Because if you're good enough, you can make a hell of a lot more money with your own team than you can with the other team. Also, some places where you go and everything looks great, you get there and you'll find out they're not real.
Why doesn't word just get around?
Oh, publicity, a lot of different things. Well, it really does. And as I say, I just look at it different than most people. I think over the years, I've learned a lot. And I think trust, I'll use that word, trust is so important. And there's been some trust in my life that have been betrayed, and I don't talk about it. Nor will I ever like it. But I just, frankly, don't talk about it.
Here it is, folks. Here it is. What did Jerry West think about winning time? My favorite thing that he did was he's like, I'm not going to comment on that. And then he just proceeded to comment some more. He was very honest, very open to the core. You could tell he's not happy about it. We'll just say that.
When I saw that HBO series, I wondered, did they get anything right? It felt like they got pretty much everything wrong.
There's some I really don't want to comment on it. It's a complete lie. It's a complete lie. Forget me, okay?
Yeah.
Forget me. I don't care what anyone says about me. Okay?
Right, exactly.
And I don't know those people. I don't want to know them. Dirty money. But that was disgraceful to a lot of people. And for some reason, I was the chosen person. That was a feel-good story. That was the start of an era in Los Angeles. Jerry Buss was the owner. Made the Lakers, for years, the most popular team in town. And to me, to try to destroy that by destroying the people who were involved during that period of time, that's disgraceful.
I love the concept of an owner to say, let's just do whatever it takes to win. When I look and read about that time, that's the thing that sticks out, is just how rare and special and hard it is for owners to do that.
Every owner is different.
Yeah.
When we look at the teams today, we have immensely wealthy owners today. Of course, because they won in their profession, they don't understand how hard it is to win this sport. They don't. They think it's easy. The more money you spend, it's not going to do it. Sometimes people spend a lot of money and they're hopelessly losing. They're not going to get better. And once he gets kind of stuck in the middle, if you don't find a way to get out of that, you're going to be in the middle of the every time. Because every year lose, look, every team in the league. Look what happens when they lose great players. And some franchises just don't be able to win. And it's frustrating for the fans. Every year there's hope when the draft comes around. But it's not easy. And there's no answer for it. There's really not. I do believe in ownership a lot. I've been fortunate. I've been involved with 4 owners in my life, ownership deals. And it's really been fantastic. And I think my lucky stars believe in me and I can help. And I'm with an owner today who's the most amazing man I've ever seen in my life. He's just a unique individual who is a giver. The work that he and his wife do from a philanthropic standpoint is amazing. But he's a great man. He is a great man. I feel privileged at this point in my life, and this is kind of my farewell to the NBA, that I've had a chance to work with someone like him, very much like figurating us in the early years of my life. And both men who people love, who's confident, and Gary was a little quieter.
Yeah, for sure.
And Steve is a little bit more bombastic, but fantastic man. I feel privileged to be.
So to close up this interview, I wanted to ask Jerry about what I heard whispers of, which is that there's a standing room only section that's going to be put in the new Clippers arena to create an atmosphere, very cheap tickets, an atmosphere of the student section in college basketball to create a real home court advantage and to make it volatile for opposing teams. Heard about it. I'm like, this is awesome. So I asked him about it. He talks about that, of course, but casually drops that he does not care about championship rings. So much so, he doesn't even know where any of his are. He also then reveals why he doesn't like courtside seats. And lastly, most importantly, he says some real nice things about me in his parting thoughts. On the record, no doubt. Let's make a montage. Something that I can keep handy on my cell phone when I end up sad and down a rabbit hole of Twitter trolls who tell me I don't know anything about basketball and I should be fired. Take a listen.
Lastly, you told me about something that's happening to the new arena. A really cool feature that is going to add to the fan experience. Tell me about that if you can.
Well, Steve, again, he doesn't do things but just to make money.
Yeah.
He doesn't. He wants a fan experience. And there's going to be a whole bleacher, not bleacher, it's going to be a whole section of seats that are good seats, standing room only. And I promise you that will be up there with you. And again, the prices are, I heard what they were going to charge, and I said, oh my gosh. I said, this will be fun. Kind of college-like atmosphere.
So they'll be reasonable prices.
Below reasonable. And in some of these places you go now, and the floor seats in particular are outrageous what people will do to have those seats. And I guess with demand, people want to be seen, they want to be down there, and hopefully someone will run over them and not hurt them, and they'll have a picture of it for their scrapbook. I don't even like the seat. You can't see the game. But people like to be close to the action. They like to hear the little raw language at times and facial expression. But again, as I say, seeing this arena is going to be amazing. And it's going to be a must-see place. And for people in Los Angeles, really close to the floor. I remember when Staples first opened, I said, oh my God, people are so far from the action. And the Forum at one time was the best place to watch a basketball game. It was so close to the floor, but it really didn't work financially because they needed more revenue to maintain the players. And also, it enhanced the value of the franchise. And as I say, this is a different NBA than we've seen it before. It'll be different 5 years from now, but it's still a very simple game. Very simple, and that's not going to change.
And if you don't stand the whole time, you get kicked out, right?
I'm not sure what the policy is, but I'm sure that's what we're doing, Steve. you'll be up there with him half the time. So that'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I appreciate you. I hope you get another ring.
I'm not sure. Rings don't mean a lot to me. I'll have a few. I don't even know where they are. Honestly, I do not.
You don't even know where the rings are? Like, you don't know. It's not in a safe somewhere. They're just gone. They're like in a random drawer.
Somewhere, okay? And, they're fun. They're hard to get. And hopefully every team and player will have an opportunity to win the championship. And moving on. That's a great feeling.
Jerry West, you have been gracious and fun and insightful, and I have taken up way too much of your time.
Of course, that's what you always do.
I'm going to have you on again.
I'm going to say something to you. It's always great to see you. You have a unique personality, and it's fun to be around.
That's all the time that we have for the Heat Check. If you haven't listened to the first parts, it's on the Heat Check feed. Share it. Tell your friends. I worked really hard on this. I don't say that very often. I did. We'll be back next week. We have another important sit-down, a very open and honest one. Not going to tell you who it is, so you got to subscribe. Please subscribe to the fucking podcast. Like, go on YouTube if you want to see my little face. Some people want to see me emote. Some people want to see me emote as I'm emoting. You can go on there. Please follow us on social at Trysta Krick and at This Heat Check on Twitter and TikTok, Instagram while you're at it. Thanks so much for listening. And tell your fucking friends.